guys, Tommy Bowyer here, and welcome to Movie Rewind. And today we will be reviewing the 2002 smash hit Spider-Man, starring Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, Willem Dafoe, Cliff Robertson, Rosemary Harris and J.K. Simmons. And to many, Spider-Man, including myself, gave birth to the comic book genre which we are in today. So there's a lot of great things to talk about, a lot of stuff to discuss, so without further ado, let's get into it. So Spider-Man tells the origin stories of Peter Parker, a nerdy, socially awkward boy who gains superhuman abilities when he is bitten by a radioactive spider. He tries to woo for the girl next door, Mary Jane Watson, played by Kirsten Dunst, and also has to fight the Green Goblin, his greatest threat, portrayed brilliantly by Willem Dafoe. Now, the first thing about this film is, it's a comic book movie. And it's not ashamed to call itself a comic book movie. If you watch this movie, you will see from all the vibrant colours, from the so-called cliche elements to it, which there are, don't get me wrong, it is a comic book. It acts and plays out very much like a comic book, which is not a bad thing. I actually like it. It is like reading a comic book. And that's a good thing that Sam Raimi did when he directed this movie. He understood that in order to bring Spider-Man to life, he had to bring a comic book to life. And he does it brilliantly. I mean, every scene in this movie just has a feel of a comic book. And that's a really good thing about the movie. It just feels like a comic book. All the cast are just hand-picked for these roles. They're absolutely brilliant. When I first saw this movie, and I saw this before The Amazing Spider-Man came out or Homecoming came out, so these are the actors I grew up with in those roles, and they're brilliant. Tobey Maguire is really good as Peter Parker. Spider-Man, he's good. I would have liked a bit more humour, because Spider-Man is a humorous character. He uses that to his advantages. But Tobey Maguire does give a really strong performance as Peter Parker and Spider-Man to an extent. Kirsten Dunst is really good as Mary Jane Watson. James Franco is really good as Harry Osborn. They give good performances there. Willem Dafoe I actually like. For some reason in the last couple of years, Willem Dafoe's portrayal of the Green Goblin has apparently been considered shit. Well, go and watch The Amazing Spider-Man 2 if you want to see a shit Green Goblin, because that is one. Willem Dafoe brings something to the character which, I don't know, you can just tell he's just having a ball while playing it. He enjoys playing this character. And if you actually read up on it, Willem Dafoe tried so hard to get this role, because the director weren't originally going to choose him. But he tried and hassled so hard so that he would get it. And you can just see he puts his all into this performance. And I kind of like it. I think it's a good performance. He's intimidating, it's intense. And he does a lot of the stunts himself, which I actually think is quite good. I think when an actor does the stunts themselves, it shows that they are committed to the role. And Willem Dafoe is committed to the role of the Green Goblin and does give a really strong performance. J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. Well, let's just say I see why none of the other movies have introduced J. Jonah Jameson, because J.K. Simmons kills it. He's just perfection in this role, and I can't really see anyone portraying J. Jonah Jameson better than J.K. Simmons. So if you're listening, Marvel Studios, get J.K. Simmons on board please, because we want to see J. Jonah Jameson back, and I think in Homecoming's universe that would be brilliant. Choosing Sam Raimi as a director was also a brilliant choice for Sony. This comes in a time when Sony actually made good decisions when it came to Spider-Man, apart from selling the rights off to Marvel. God bless them for doing that. But Sam Raimi is used to working on a tight budget. He used to do a lot of horror movies, so he's used to working on a tight budget. So when he gets quite a large budget with Spider-Man, he doesn't overspend. He uses a lot of practical effects. And don't get me wrong, when Spider-Man's flying through the city and swinging through the city, you know, first time we have ever seen that on the big screen, it is good. And I have to say, the CGI does, you know, still hold up today. But the practical effects they use are actually really strong. I mean, if I could pick a scene, it would be the final fight between Spider-Man and the Green Goblin. That is intense. And the reason it's intense is because they're using real actors. There is something there. It is not just CGI. And that means you feel every physical blow that Green Goblin gives to Spider-Man in that fight. And that makes you more invested in the movie. So, yeah, I miss films like this which came out in the early 2000s because the practical effects they use are really strong. And I think if more comic book movies today used practical effects, then we'd be more invested instead of just a load of, CGI images. The storyline is really strong. The writing is one of the cornerstones of this movie because time flies by. There is such fluid writing that it just flies by, and that's a good thing because you're so invested in the writing and the characters, which is held up by the acting and the writing combined. It means that you don't realise that time's flying by, which is good because it shows that your audience is invested in the film. That's also helped by the score. Now, Danny Elfman has done a lot of scores, but I really enjoy the Spider-Man score he did. I mean, just when you hear it, when the opening credits are opening, it gets you pumped up, ready for the movie, so you are ready to see Spider-Man. Which kind of makes me wish that more movies used opening credits because it does get you pumped ready for the movie. And that's something Spider-Man does really well. I mean, I know a lot of people would say it's a bit too cliche, the writing, but I don't think so. I'd say it's very nostalgic. I'd say it's very much like a comic book because if you've ever read some of the Spider-Man comic books, they are very cheesy and very cliche. So I think it does a good job at just, as I said at the start, putting a comic book on the big screen, which I wish more movies today would, not have a problem with, because they are all comic book movies. So why not embrace the atmosphere of a comic book? However, with all movies, there are weaknesses. I think with this one, and it's not much to be honest, I just wish that Spider-Man was a bit more humorous. I mean, in the comics, Spider-Man uses humour as his primary weapon to distract his enemies, and I kind of wish that he did use more of it here. However, as I said, it's only a nitpick really, it's nothing too much. I mean, they handle emotion really well in this movie. I mean, the with great power comes great responsibility scene is portrayed brilliantly between Tobey Maguire and Cliff Robertson, who plays Uncle Ben. It is straight out of the comics, and it's just perfection. I'd say that is just, you don't need to redo that. You don't really need to redo that scene because that was just done perfectly. That's just perfect. You don't need to redo it. So I don't know why they keep redoing it because that is the definitive one. For me anyway, I don't know about you. So yeah, there aren't many negatives here because it's just a perfect movie, to be honest. Just a perfect movie. So in conclusion, Spider-Man is a landmark in comic book movies. It showed that you can bring a comic book to life on the big screen. And with all the brilliant actors, with all the great direction by Sam Raimi, this movie is fantastic. It's one of my favourite movies and one of my favourite Spider-Man movies, so it deserves a 10 out of 10. I keep repeating myself a bit, but you can't go wrong with a movie like this. It is, I don't know, they just got together, they brought out some comic books and said, right, we're going to bring to life a comic book. So I think a lot of movies, especially comic book movies which are made nowadays, can take on from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man to the fact that don't be embarrassed that you're creating a comic book movie. Just do it and make it look like a comic book. So thanks for watching guys, I really do hope you enjoyed my Spider-Man movie review. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe in order to receive great and maybe even improved quality content in the future. And if you haven't yet realised, I will be reviewing all 5 Spider-Man movies. Yes, and that includes the fucking Amazing Spider-Man 2, which we all love and no one has a problem with. So anyway guys, I hope you look forward to that and I will see you in the next one. See ya!